3, 2, 1. Antoine! That was a
What did
lie.
I do?
What?
I said, what did I do?
Yeah.
What did I do?
Hello,
I swear it was not me. It was the one-armed man.
dude.
That was my really shitty French accent. I apologize to the people of France and all the cool stuff that they've given us over the years.
Yeah, well, if your name's Rob Paulson and you're doing a terrible accent, that obviously is a fake French accent. Not to get ahead of ourselves here, with the episode proper, but I gotta chime in a little here. It's really funny that was Antoine in the episode Ro-Becca. He does Rob Paulson's already doing a fake French accent. And then he does a German accent on top of the already fake French accent. To me, that's like Mel Blanc, like when he did like Bugs Bunny doing Daffy Duck, or like when Daffy Duck does Bugs Bunny.
It just got all combobulated.
What's really funny? I have to interject. I have to interject and say this. What's really funny was for a moment there when, Antoine says during that scene, when he's with Ro-Becca, right? That robot. We'll talk if for people who have no idea what a SatAM is, we'll give you better context in a minute. Please stay tuned if you don't want to watch SatAM and you just like our reviews. We appreciate if you do. Be sure to give us a like if that's why you're here. But anyway,
If you also like us, watch our videos, follow us on social media, join our Discord. We promise we won't bite unless you give us your verbal consent.
yes. So yeah, to finish my thought, no, for a split second there, I thought Antoine was going to try to do an impression of like like an American accent or some sort of accent that like made
Oh,
no
that's right.
sense.
You did that really bad Arnold Schwarzenegger impression.
Yeah, but he did it in character. That was the
I
funny
know
thing.
that was actually pretty great.
I mean, as much as that episode is garbage, that was like the best part for me. Like for one moment. Anyway, no. What I was gonna say was for one moment there, I thought he was gonna do something like, "Brr, I'm doing an Italian accent," or I'm like, is this what Antoine thinks is a foreign accent? I almost like lost it there. I mean, like I'm sitting here laughing at this 30-year-old cartoon, that was not probably supposed to be funny. I mean, it was supposed to be like a chuckle or maybe a humorous chuckle. But I don't know. Anyway, hello everyone. My name is Radrey. I'm joined today by Malzilla. Say hi, Malzilla.
Grionk. That's hello.
So
Hi, Jim.
if you've made it this far into the episode and you touched all the socials, thank you very much. First of all, we are going to dive into 3 episodes today. We are doing The Void. We are doing the Odd Couple / Ro-Becca episode that we just mentioned prior, and we are also finishing up with Cry of the Wolf, the Lupe episode. If you're familiar
This
with
is
who
the
Lupe the Wolf is.
penultimate. This is the penultimate episode of SatAM reviews because after this, it's the last 3, and we're all over, and that kind of makes me sad.
Yeah, get out your tissue box, because you only need tissues for 2 things. It's for crying or, having I don't know, setting the night on fire, because it's Friday night and you thank the Lord you still got hands. That's all I got to say. So without further ado, let's dive into our first episode. Unless Malzilla has some thoughts before we dive in.
Yeah, like this is my opening preamble.
Okay.
I will say this, mostly from Nagus / The Void and Cry of the Wolf. Again, you could definitely see Penders. This is definitely when he pulled out his notebook and started jotting things down. Because if you took the stuff we learned from Blast of the Past, The Void, and Cry of the Wolf, that's a lot of Archie Sonic content that they just redid and all kinds of crazy stuff.
It's funny that you mentioned Penders, because I did not see Penders as much as I saw Ian and Aaliyah Baker all over this episode. Like, I could just smell them like they're here. I can sense their presence. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting because again, it's one of those crazy things because again, Ian came in, so late in the game when so many of these things. Now he did a lot with Nagas, and the end of the pre-boot and into the post-boot. We'll talk more about it as we go on, but all of this stuff that he did was basically, you know, Slur and the Pender setting it all up. So yeah, so let's yeah, it's just one of those things where we go into a lot of the details, especially some of the late, pre 50, issues.
Oh yeah, no, I could definitely tell that Ian and Aaliyah were taking notes with this one because I got some things to say. So, with
All
that
right.
being said, without further ado, we are going to begin with um, episode 21, I believe, simply called "The Void," directed by Ron Myrick, written by Ben Hurst. So without, yeah, the episode begins with Sonic venturing into the great unknown. That's where this location is called. My guess is to probably look for Lupe, or because, what is it? Ari said that, well, because the show's kind of like using some sort of continuity. Ari said that there are other freedom fighters and that he was probably here in the great unknown, probably trying to look for them. That's my guess. I don't know.
Possible.
Yeah. So anyway, he's in the great unknown where a mysterious portal to the void suddenly opens, nearly pulling Sonic in. But using a power ring, he escapes and finds a strange golden artifact before returning to Knothole. Meanwhile, on the other side of the portal, within the void, the sorcerer Nagus watches Sonic's incredible speed and Sally's sharp intellect through a reflective crystal surface. And apparently they have Wi-Fi and screens down there in the void. But I didn't see any food. I'll tell you that much. I don't
Rock
know
candy.
I don't know. They
Rock.
must, or that, or they. What is it? Rocks just fill their appetites. It's like, I mean, I don't know. If I lived in a place like that, I would ask questions like, how do you go to the bathroom down here? Where do you eat? You know, like how, I don't know. That thing kind of bothered me, but I mean, it is a cool location, mind you. This crystal palace down in the void, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, so Sally recognizes it as possible proof of the legendary Mondaris, but grows suspicious when Nicole detects inconsistencies in its description. Suddenly, the artifact activates, trapping Sally and Bunny in a red energy field that carries them away. Oh, I should also mention that while this is happening, they get a letter from Uncle Chuck, inquiring them that Robotnik has big plans, and Sonic leaves before.
He's called in a meeting.
He's called into a
he's
meeting,
making...
before the artifact activates and puts Sally and Bunny in this red aura and sends them out the window, and like in this like sort of energy field that carries them away. For our people who have not seen this episode or who can't remember it, I'm trying to explain the deets here. So with this being said, Malzillo, Mandaris, has this ever appeared in Archie? I don't think so.
I don't believe so, unless it was like a vague mention. Like, I've reread Radrey in the last few years, but like I'll be honest, like a lot of the between the Sonic, the first 50 issues get kind of jumbled because you had like the gag era and you remember some of the stuff, and then they got serious and you kind of remember some of the big stuff like Mecha Madness, Evil Sonic and Company, and then Endgame. But unless it was one of those, they had a bunch of little random issues here and there. Unless they brought it up, which I'm pretty sure they didn't. This is just a random shit that Hurst wrote.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I should mention this is very much a Ben Hurst episode. This is very Hurstian.
It's
That's even a
Hurstian.
word. Yeah, like David Lynch.
We're
Like they
making
describe
it
it
a
as
word.
Lynchian, right?
Uh,
What was it? Yeah, I don't think I've ever remembered Mandaris. It seems like a missed opportunity. Like they could have done. That could have been like what the Exordia are called later in Archie, but I guess they just never
Yeah.
used it.
It was interesting that she did refer to them as giants,
Did she?
and that yeah, I do remember that, and that kind of again, when you make up comment about the Zorda, that would be pretty interesting if that was like
Well,
you know
it wouldn't surprise me if it is them because what is it? The Void gets later renamed to the Zone of Silence in the Archie book,
yeah,
right?
that's what Penders renamed it.
Why the change? Do you know why?
Eh,
Why
just
are you
because
laughing?
it's Penders being Penders. I mean, it
What
was.
does that mean? You have to
I'll
explain
let
that.
that. I'm just it's him just doing his thing. I mean, the Void is kind of like a generic name. Maybe he thought because everything is like a zone, called it the Zone of Silence. I
Oh,
don't
like
know.
Green Hill Zone, Chemical Plant
Yeah.
Zone. Okay. All right. I did that. That did never cross my mind. Okay. Because usually they're not that many syllables. Most of the time it's like what the zone of silence. Well, I mean, yeah, it's the other way around. It'd be silent zone if we wanted to, maintain consistency or continuity, wouldn't it?
hmm Something like
Anyway.
that. It's yeah.
Okay. Well, it doesn't surprise me. It's Penders. He wrote a lot of weird shit. I mean, to me, some of it's very bizarre. If we ever get around to reviewing Archie for this show, when we start getting to the Knuckles names, that's when I was like, I don't know, I was revisiting some of these Knuckles books, right? And I'm like, what is up with these names, man? Like Mephistopheles, Archimedes, uh, Julie
There was
Sue.
that.
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't really a Mephistopheles. It was Semper Fidelis, and then he was the father of Archimedes. And obviously you had Edmund and Dimitri.
Yeah,
And then you
Dimitri.
had
What the fuck is that name, man? Anyway, go on.
those are the
Sorry.
those are
We're
the
gonna have
OG
somebody. We're gonna have a
brothers.
very angry commenter in the comments soon saying, "My name's Dimitri. Fuck you, guy." I'm so sorry for making fun of your name. I
And then you
apologize in
got guys like
advance.
then you guys got like there was one named Rembrandt and
Oh
then
yeah, that's right,
Moonwatcher.
Rembrandt. The fuck
And
is
then
that?
there was a dude named Moonwatch who basically looked like he walked off like the set of Star Trek in a Geordie LaForge cosplay.
Okay.
And then you had there was Spectre, there was Thunderhawk. I always thought it was Saber, but maybe it's Saber, Aethar. You had Sojourner, you got Hawking,
Jesus Christ.
Tobor, it was a bunch of crazy names.
Hmm.
But yeah, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah. Well, something I wanted to ask you about in terms of this episode. Well,
hmm
actually, not just this episode in particular. All the episodes. Do you have any like distinct memories of any of these episodes from when you were younger, from when these
All right,
things
I do.
aired?
I do remember watching this one several times.
Because they were reruns.
Yeah.
Do you have any like particular memories or any kind of stories about them?
No, not really. I just remember watching it, and it's cool because it's Tim Curry.
Man, I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, for me, like, I can't illustrate how much of an event it was for me to watch this show. I mean, I've probably said it a million times. I'm gonna say it a million times more. Getting up at fucking 7 a.m. to watch this show because when you're a kid and you go to bed late or your parents force you to go to bed late or go to bed earlier. But for the life of you, there is no way in hell you want to wake up early, right? I mean, unless like you're suddenly one of those kids that just wakes up early suddenly.
I'm sorry, but like everyone I knew, every Saturday morning cartoons is like you got up early, you got your fruity pebbles, your super sugary cereal, you poured yourself a bowl, you sat in front of your TV and then waited for your parents to get up, and then you watched Fox Kids
Oh, right, right,
stuff
right.
like.
No, no, no. I mean, yeah, that's Saturday morning, yes. But what was it? Yeah, most of the time I would always get up around 9 or 8 o'clock or something because it's the weekend. You want to sleep in, right? It's not like you don't have to go to school or anything. Um, because yeah, at that point, like 9 a.m. It was like I remember I used to always watch the WB Like they'd always have like Animaniacs on first, and then by the time like Freakazoid came on, everybody was like kind of like dropping off. I could tell. And then by
Well,
the
one
term,
thing that I always remembered, with the Saturday morning cartoons is that like from about 8 to 10 was like that 2 hour block. That was like the golden hour. And then like anything after 10, and then you got into like 11 o'clock, and that was kind of when things were like they put the worst shows at like 11 because then it's like noon, and then you get some really crazy stuff like they had this one show, and I actually watched it a lot, and I actually went for one. I went to I dressed up for Halloween for one of these shows. It was this it was basically it was a bunch of martial arts stuntmen. It was kind of almost like you know where like professional wrestling puts on the illusion of it being like a live sport, but they all kind of you have all the plots written out and stuff. Like this was clearly like a scripted thing that they had all set up with these martial arts stuntmen with these famous, like they came up with these all kind of like stage names. Like the one dude was called Olympus, and then like the guy who called himself Red Dragon, he was like Scorpion and Sub-Zero in the Mortal Kombat movie. So these were like, you look at some of these guys, you're like, I've seen these guys before. And they wrote all these inner feuds, and it was really great. And that was all at like 11:30. So it was always like one of the last shows because like
we did not
every
have this show, but okay. Continue.
but yeah, it's just kind of like, and wow, we've really deviated, but like Saturday morning, that 8 to 10 block was the golden one, like, and especially like 9 a. I think 9 a.m. was like like you have maybe you have a couple things on at like 6, like I remember like Eek the Cat or Bobby's World
Yeah, we didn't
were
have
really,
that. Those came on
and
later
then
in
and
Colorado,
those were
anyway.
like the in Colorado, it's Colorado for you, and then like. And then like you'd get like Spider-Man and the X-Men, and then you'd be like Power Rangers. And then eventually as the years went by, they started getting like, obviously, Batman the Animated Series was on it too. But then I think that switched over to WB when the WB started, doing its own thing. But I remember, that's just like, this was also like one of the first times I watched a lot of anime. Like I remember like Escaflowne, and some anime fans will know that one. It's kind of a isekai fantasy mech series that showed up on like Fox Kids in the late '90s. It was kind of crazy.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, there's a lot of shows back then. I mean, I guess it's sort of important to talk about this so kind of people get an idea of what kind of programming was on TV then, because it is very reflective of the time. I mean, SatAM is very, it's very Don Bluth. It's very, Batman the Animated Series. It's very, I don't know, like it takes
It's
a
a
lot
product.
from. Yeah, it's a product of its time. I mean, it takes a lot from Blade Runner and I don't know, Terminator and Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Yeah,
Yeah, again, it's like what we've talked about is a lot of the people, especially in the States, because again, Sonic was such a new franchise, and all the writers for it were 30 to 40-year-olds who, all their points of reference for fiction were in the 70s, in the 80s. So again, that's where you saw all that stuff kind of originate from.
yeah. Well, and anyway, I mean, the reason why I brought this up is because, um, well, number one, yeah, it was just such an effort to get up and like catch it. What's kind of interesting about this show is that how serialized it became. We know when it was really hard to like, keep up with the rest of the show, and it's kind of unique that a lot of the show has like serialized moments. Like you'll see later in like the Odd Couple episode where Dulcie is actually still wearing her knee pads that she got from the Dulcie episode prior. Like little
Mhm.
tiny continuity, consistencies that actually exist in this, which I probably maybe I noticed as a kid, or maybe I didn't. The reason why I kind of deviate from this conversation right here, and I ask you about your relationship, is for some odd reason, I want to know if anybody in this, I'm not sure who's listening to this show or whoever does, because we do get some listeners. We do get listeners who write into me. And thank you so much for your feedback. I really like hearing what you have to say. And
We actually had someone say they didn't like Bunny Antoine.
Yeah, that was very interesting. I thought
that was the first.
Yeah, no, I not to sound like George Bush here, but I appreciate that comment. Or I appreciate that. Well, I guess no. Bush used to always say, "I appreciate that question." Sorry, I do appreciate that comment though, because I do want to have like an open conversation. You know, it's not. This isn't a show where we're only on one team. We're team SOA, or it's all about a vibe. We're not that, or at least I'm not that way. I know how Malzilla is. I don't want to speak for you. If you're like, this Radley guy, he's insane. He does all these, he speaks for Malzilla all the time. I don't want you to feel that way.
Like, for me personally, like, there's good and bad stuff from each side of the Pacific. And I'm trying to tell people, like, hey, don't glaze one side, over the other. But
don't glaze it, saute it.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yes, it is. Yeah, but I am kind of curious about if anybody in Colorado saw the same thing. Because I remember when I watched this episode, and this really did change the way I viewed. I do not have any proof of this, but I'm not sure if this is what made me stop watching SatAM after this episode, because after all these episodes, I stopped watching. I'm not sure why. I want to believe that the reason I stopped watching SatAM was because it was so hard to catch on TV, or I had something going on in my life at this point where I couldn't wake up at the exact time to record it, or, to catch it, or because, it was one of these shows where it's like I didn't really have any friends that I could, like, demand, dude, wake up at 7 a.m. to record this for me. I wasn't really a bully, so I'm not going to bully anybody to do it for me. And, because I was a nice kid. I was patient. I was quiet. I was annoying, like a lot of kids back then. But anyway, the story I want to tell is when I was watching this, and I was trying to look for it before the start of this episode, but I could not find it for the life of me. But for some reason, when this show aired on, in Colorado, they screwed up the audio tracks. They played the wrong audio track for SatAM, and it started with like this kind of poppy, like kind of high school drama sort of music. It was obviously, this is 94, but I was like trying to look through like old sitcom, with like a laugh track and, high school kids. And because all of a sudden they're playing this new music with like the SatAM theme, it wasn't the Blue Streak Speeds by, it wasn't that at all. It was like some sort of da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, something like that. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, did they change the music? What's going on? Right? And then all of a sudden when the episode starts, there was like different voice actors. And I'm like, what? And then there was a laugh track. And I'm like, what happened? Right? And I think what it was is that I think I recorded this episode. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I recorded it. Like, cause I set the VCR to record this at the time. And at this point, when Sally and Bunny have that red aura on them, they disappear through the window. That's when they finally, somebody at the network or somebody, whoever is in charge of like how the episodes were being aired, they flipped the switch to where, the audio track for SatAM came back on. So I had no idea what was going on when Sonic was in the Great Unknown, and then when this Nagas character showed up. I don't know. I mean, to me as a kid, this was so confusing, right? And I remember like going to show my dad like stuff like, what happened? Like, is this part of the show? Or I'm like, there's something wrong with this. So if anybody of our audience out there grew up in Colorado and experienced this, please let me know. I would be happy to know that I'm not the only one who experienced this. Malza, you didn't experience any of this, right?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Hopefully you enjoyed this story. If you found this tedious or hard to listen to, let me know. Because it really did change the way I viewed SatAM for probably the rest of my life. But if anybody knows that, what was it? A 90s sitcom, I think it was about high school. I'd be curious to know.
Saved by the Bell.
Nah, I don't, maybe? It might have been. Anyway, I'll have to listen to it later. So, after that long digression, let's go back to our characters. So, meanwhile, in Robotropolis, Uncle Chuck intercepts a message revealing Robotnik's latest scheme, the Doomsday Project. As Sonic learns more, Snively detects unusual activity in the void, prompting a visibly shaken Robotnik to recall past events.
Actually, it's really interesting. Is like if I might make a minor correction.
Sure, yeah. Pop in.
So basically, again, Sonic goes off. He's meet up Uncle Chuck, and that's Sally and Bunny get abducted. But so yeah, Uncle Chuck gives him the 411, and then he says he's got to go back to work, or they'll see that he's missing. So what he ends up doing, but kind of right a little bit early before that, is Snively's scoping out like the energy, and he's like, oh, so before he tells Robotnik, he kind of makes the comments like, oh, so Naga's finally found out how to do it, huh? So it's kind of like, and he's kind of taking a moment. This episode has a lot of like Snively's plotting against his uncle in this.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, they set it up in the first episode of the season, so
yeah. But then like you really do see like when this is the only time we see Eggman legitimately, or not Eggman, Robotnik, because that was not a thing at the time. This is like really the main time we really do see Robotnik just kind of freaking the fuck out. Like this is
it's something else, right?
This is
it's a pretty rare moment. You don't see much of it.
He's legitimately scared, and this is something. And he deals with a supersonic hedgehog on the day to day. But this, not this guy Nagus, he's got him sweating in his boots.
I mean, I love that look that he gives when, like, he actually questions if Sonic is working with Nagus. Like, you can tell, that's like an oh fuck moment.
That's like, oh yeah, that's like, I don't like this. I don't like this idea at all. It's like, and he's kind of in denial, but also at the same time, he's like, he realizes like, yeah, this is not good. We gotta deal with this now, Snively.
So let me ask you something. Let me ask you something about this. What do you think Robotnik and Nagus's relationship was back then?
Well,
when I say relationship, not like a ship. I mean, like, how are they friends? Were they partners? That sort of thing.
Their character dynamic is the term you're looking for.
Yes, I guess I should be specific. Excuse me. Why were they woke, Godzilla? Tell me. Sorry, continue.
Eggman is the feminist, according to the data books.
Yes.
But it's interesting because this is something we're going to talk a lot about in this. So if you got your Archie issues, pull them out. But this had a lot of Archie stuff, and Nagus and Eggman really didn't do like, obviously in this episode, and spoilers for Head, Robotnik is the one who locks Nagus in the void. Now, in Archie, it was Warlord Codus who was the one who logged Nagus in the void, because, I mean,
okay,
because, and of course Nagus had a very different backstory. He was kind of this, fusion of like three sorcerers who then kind of became, the royal magician to the, kingdom of Acorn, and then blah, blah, blah. They had this plan, and there's all this kind of shenanigans going on.
Huh. I forgot about that. I forgot how much consistency Archie kept. But yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies. But, that's sort of what Sonic is known for, the inconsistencies. That's part of the fun, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I'd like to imagine that maybe Nagas probably, worked with Robotnik, maybe got him. I mean, based on what I know about the character in the show, I imagine because Robotnik schemes, he steals things, he's dishonest. Um, even like what is it? Five. Well, okay, yeah, 5 seconds later, after I'm about to get my analysis here, he double crosses Nagas like right away, like without even like blinking, pretty much. So I imagine that probably he's like, and he's a user. He's a total freeloader, and he probably used some of his magic to probably get to where he was in the show. So it wouldn't surprise me. That's my guess, is what the relationship is.
Well, I think it was the case because he was very much. This is probably shortly after the Great War, and Nagas was doing his magic research, and obviously Robotnik was a scientist, so they probably saw I mean, you get a typical science versus magic rivalry, but probably Nagas had more power, so he's probably just like, hey, I need a lackey, and Robotnik, you're my lackey. Because again, at the same time, Snively still had hair at this point, so.
Right, right, right. Let me ask you something. Here's kind of a bigger question. Magic and Sonic. What are your thoughts? Good idea or great idea?
Well, see, here's the interesting thing, and this is, um,
I'm listening.
this is a big debate because Ian on the Bumblecast has mentioned that there's no magic in Sonic, which I think is kind of bullshit, to be honest, because
Nah, they got to keep that Christian crowd, when there's
well,
sorcery and there's Harry Potter in my Sonic, it's going in the fire, my dude.
well, considering how much money Harry Potter makes, they the people are gonna see it regardless.
Yeah,
But
tell me about it. With
it
or
was just
without
cases
trans
like
characters, yeah.
okay, moving on.
Yes.
But like you think about it, you got the Master Emerald. It's mystic. You have the Chaos Emeralds that are mystic and from another planet. So there are a lot of magical elements. Like the whole idea of Sonic getting sucked into the storybook games. So like for Secret Rings or Merlina something. So like magic very much is a part of it.
Oh yeah.
And
I love it. I think it's
and
great.
and it's always fun when you can mix science and magic and do it well in a franchise. But I feel like you know I think they've kind of avoided it in the games a whole lot more so than they have in the I mean it's comics have been doing it in all that fun stuff. So I think at the end of the day it has a place. I wish Sega would kind of embrace it more. I mean again, like all the SatAM characters, Sega owns Nagus. He's the second longest running villain in the franchise, and he was basically he was involved to the very end of Archie. So yeah, he's got a long history, and I think it should be respected. You don't have to like it, but you have to respect it.
I don't know. My thoughts are whatever. I'm just I'm getting so tired of internet outrage, or
Yeah, whatever.
well, I mean, I don't know. It's just one of these things where it's like people don't actually really care about what the actual facts are, or actually what somebody feels, or what somebody's like actual intention is. They only just sort of want to go with what their vibe is. So just full disclosure, if I ever make a joke on the show, or if I ever say something that comes off as insensitive or crass, just please know that it's never about like saying I'm on a certain team, or I'm on a certain time, or I'm having a certain vibe that everybody needs to have. It's mostly just a way of understanding the world we live in. And if I ever like say something that that comes off as insensitive, please let me know. I'm happy to hear, and I'm always open to changing my mind. And Malzilla, especially on this show, knows that I'm always open to changing my mind. So, I'm not being one of those annoying people who are like, yeah, I'm gonna sit here and you change my mind. You send me the things in the mailbox. I just want to have. This is an attempt for me to have a conversation, with new people that I meet all the time. And there are a lot of great people out there, despite what you see on the internet all the time. Not everybody's like that. The more people you meet, the more like chill and calm and relaxed you are, the more you realize there's a lot of great people out there. So, Magic and Sonic, I think it's cool. That's all I'm going to say. Moving on. Wow, we're doing a lot of digression today. This is a lot. Hopefully you're still with us. If you're still with us, press 1 in the comments. No F's in the chat, please. Well, this isn't live, so let's continue. So yes, so as they state, now one thing I found particularly interesting is that they say this was 11 years ago. Did you catch this?
I did not catch that line.
They said, yeah, they said, go on.
But that would make sense because, again, this is because, again, they talk about the coup being 10 years ago. So this is probably like a year before the coup. So that checks out.
Checks out. Wow. Huh. Wow. The one consistency that works. Okay. Robotnik and Snively, Robotnik and Snively assisted the sorcerer, Nagus, in entering the void, promising to retrieve him in after an hour. Nagus warned Robotnik not to betray him, even briefly transforming Robotnik's head into a crow as a demonstration of his power. Robotnik feigned compliance, but secretly had no intention of keeping his word. The moment, Nagus entered, Robotnik sealed the portal, ensuring the sorcerer remained trapped. Where do you think the inspiration for Nagus and the Void came from? Because this feels very Don Bluth to me.
I can see it.
Like Black Cauldron.
That's Disney.
Else? Yeah, well, I mean, that's still Don Bluth, isn't it?
I don't think so.
Okay, now I need to Google this.
Hold on.
I mean, All Dogs Go to Heaven. Yeah, I mean that shit is really dark.
Yeah, that was Don Bluth, but the Black Cauldron was not. That was pure Disney.
Huh? Wasn't that his style or no?
I mean, it might have. It was different, and it came out in the 80s. Okay. And this was one of those things where, like, Disney digression. Disney animation in like the 70s and the 80s was like the golden era of of like Cinderella and all that. They were kind of in a bit of a slump before they got to the Disney Renaissance in '89.
Mm-hmm. Well, hold on. I'm checking out the internet here. It says it is a Don Bluth movie, but he didn't have much creative direction. Is the problem? Okay.
I don't see his name I'm on the wiki page.
Okay. Oh, it says without any involvement. Well, whatever. I mean, it looks like his style.
Maybe I'm sure that
style.
Probably, it's animation. They all kind of
Huh. Okay. All right. Well, because that's the only comparison I can draw. Because Don Bluth, his projects were always considered dark, and they had lots of magic and I don't know, glowy things and shadows and doom and destruction. But that's the only comparison I can draw. If anybody out there knows exactly where the people think that the Void and Nagus came from, I'd be interested to know more. Because the only other thing when I think of the Void is like that episode of The Simpsons where, where is it? I can't remember the exact episode, but it was like some baseball team that was started by Mr. Burns, and then all the baseball players have trouble. For the life of me, I can't remember.
I remember. I love that episode.
Ken Griffey Jr.'s in it, and
like he takes the tonic, Jose Canseco. One guy gets lost into like another dimension.
That's what it is. It's like that's what I start thinking of when I think of the Void. Yeah, but that's the only comparison I can draw of where they could possibly get inspiration for whatever the Void is. So I'm not sure what popular. I'd have to. I mean, this is like a rabbit hole for another day. But let's continue. In the present, Snively reminds Robotnik that Nagus will be furious if he escapes, but Robotnik dismisses the idea, believing he's still trapped. Meanwhile, Sonic returns to Knothole to find Sally and Bunny missing. With Nicole's help, he discovers that they were taken by a strange red energy connected to the void. Determined to rescue them, Sonic heads into the great unknown. One thing I want to know is, regarding this last piece, how does Robotnik know that Nagus is trapped?
Because he trapped him there.
Well, I mean, how does he know that he can't get out of there?
Well, he's making assumptions.
Okay, all right.
Like he's kind of like he's concerned because it's opening, and he knows he's in there, and it's kind of like he's kind of playing what is the worst case scenario, but at the same time, it's like, and Nagus, it's one of those things where Nagus explained, over time he learned how to like master it, and he could open up the gateway from his side. It's just he didn't have the speed or the power to make it to the other side.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because I'm just trying to figure out, like, what is it Robotnik actually knows about the Void, or what would he know? I imagine
Probably
Nagus...
not a whole lot.
Yeah, I imagine probably Nagus knows a lot more, and maybe he spilled the beans or something.
Like he probably has like a basic idea because again, that's where after he took over, he tossed Sally's dad, the king, in there. So it's kind of like okay, it's kind of like interdimensional banishment.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing I wanted to point out is I find like this scene with Sonic and Nicole. Did Aaliyah Baker take all the notes from this episode to create Sally Cole? Because I really think it all comes from this episode. I think it's.
I really don't.
Really? Why not?
I don't. Because I think all of her Sally Cole came out with the stuff that they did in the manga, or not the manga, the comics, where
same thing. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. Yes, technically. Yeah, technically correct, which is the best kind of correct. Where after she had the whole body swap for like 20 minutes or so, and then she kind of became really interested in being, amongst the people and kind of evolving from just beyond an artificial intelligence into, a person. That's when you got this whole thing of them having that moment, out by the lake, looking at the stars, and, her being able to only hold this holographic form for a few minutes because it takes so much power, and before she has to go back to the, handheld. But of course, eventually that would evolve. That would become her digital avatar when they would do holo projections, and then eventually when they rebuilt New Mobotropolis with the nanites, there were holo projectors everywhere, so she kind of was able to interact with everyone. So, and then of course, again, that's where I think Aaliyah, took a lot of that into the Spark of Life. I could be mistaken, but I
that
don't
checks
think
out probably more because it stays more Archie centric. But I mean, the reason why I say probably Aaliyah got some of the ideas, or maybe even Ian, I'm not sure exactly. I have to re-listen to Bumblecast, but as I've said before in this show, it really does ruin my experience of enjoying this show or reading the Sonic book. I'm like, I did not want to know that, stuff like that, No, the reason why I say it is because, Sonic finds Nicole on the floor, and he's like, wow, Sally's never without you. You're simpatico or not simpatico. You're always together. You're attached to the hip. Right, literally. Well, not literally. I guess near the foot. They're attached near the ankle. Or what do you call that part of your foot? That's like right above. That's where she keeps Nicole usually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're basically attached to each other all the time, and I could kind of see like maybe some of Nicole's characterization kind of coming into Archie, or at least late stage Archie, where they kind of have Nicole as tell me I'm wrong about this characterization. I'm fine with people, chiming in. She's kind of this like more kind of submissive and very, very how would you describe her? Technical, right? I mean, obviously she uses these terms, and Sonic demands that her like speak in English. And I love how like abusive Sonic is to this, device. Of course, us, right? We probably talk to Siri exactly the same way, or we talk to Alexa the same way, right? But I love how like Nicole is like smart enough, to adapt and like understand how to talk to Sonic, right? So I mean that's how advanced this quote unquote AI is. But also, question. Son Cole, do you ship this? Malzilla.
Not really.
No? I do. But anyway,
No.
tell me why. Why not?
It's just, I mean, it's a fun friendship because again, she picks up the mannerisms throughout the episode, but again, it's just they don't really, especially like Nicole in this context. It's very much she's just a typical AI.
Right.
She's the AI and again, Sonic doesn't really deal a whole lot with the tech,
Right,
so
right.
it's like them having a banter is nice, but yeah, I don't see much more than that.
I don't know. To me, I don't know if we're going to receive heat for this comment, but I don't care. Um, we'll get views for the show because we definitely need them. Um, or sorry, we need spikes for the show. We definitely need them spikes. Just to be slightly controversial. Of course, I'll backtrack all my statements if if any of it comes off as insensitive or rude. Forgive me if that does. Remember to forgive people that have committed cardinal sins out there. Unless they're completely unforgivable, then that's something different. But would you say that Nicole's kind of like, let's say that this continuity later develops into Nicole the HoloLinks. Can we say that Nicole's kind of like submissive Sally, whereas like, Sally is like dominant Sally? You know what I mean?
Uh, I think with Nicole as she is, like you're very much following that classic like law of robotics,
Okay.
and that she's there to serve Sally. She doesn't really have much. I wouldn't say sentience, but kind of outside of her a programming.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why when Sally's always, I wouldn't say barking orders, but you know she's always doing what Sally tells her because
Well, that's what we do to
she
AI, so but
yeah.
yeah. Uh hmm. Okay. For our listeners out there, can you explain to them what the laws of robotics is or are?
Okay.
Just it's a
The
really
laws.
brief summary, just for people who don't probably know what that is.
So back in the olden day, you had this dude named Isaac Asimov, who was kind of one of the pioneer of science fiction writing.
Yes.
And one of his things, this guy was born in the 20s. He's actually Russian, with the name didn't. He was a writer. He was a professor of biochemistry.
Yes. Pretty
You know,
advanced.
he was a pretty big guy. And one of the things that he did, because he wrote the laws of robotics, which is the three laws of robotics are: a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. Number two, a robot must obey the orders given it by human beings except when such orders would conflict with the first law. And three, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first and second laws.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff. Man, I love science fiction. I like stories like this. So I mean, that's sort of why I wanted to give that the um, what's the word, explanation for what Malzil is talking about here. Because I really felt like a lot of this show could have like went in many interesting places, but I don't know, the way the Sonic series looks today, it's like I'm just not a big fan of it. I mean, some of it works for me, some of it really does, and it's like to me, it's like this show was kind of like a catalyst that introduced me to other stuff, that more like harder stuff, like like Oddworld and Mr. Robot and all these other kind of like deep and like huge stories. I mean, with Stanley Kubrick as well, David Lynch probably. I mean, I'm saying this is like a really my introduction to like more serious media. It was like the gateway drug for me in a lot of ways. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ideas that they put into this show that I really felt like they could have explored, and Archie definitely did. So, um, depending on the writer, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll talk about that much, much later. So, moving on, out into the great unknown, Sonic searches for the Void Portal, but Robotnik arrives, suspecting that Sonic is working for Nagas, as I mentioned prior. His forces attack, forcing Sonic underground. Cue the theme song. But when he resurfaces, he's caught in the pull of the void. With Robotnik's forcing in, he just lets himself get sucked in. Now, one thing I want to point out. I'm sorry, did you want to sing Sonic Underground, but I cut you off?
No.
Okay.
I did, but I'm over it.
Should I dig that up and put that in right here or no?
Up
What do
to
you
you.
think? Up to me? All right.
Okay.
If you guys hear it in the background while I'm singing this, you know that I had extra time to actually edit this in. But anyway, I want to point out at this scene in particular, Nicole sounds very Sally at this moment.
Well, it's because they have the same voice actress.
I know. Work with me here. No, what I'm saying is she sounds very Sally at this moment. Is what I'm saying. She's submissive Sally. So I mean, imagine if Nicole. Okay, let's do some. What is it? Time wibbly wobbly. Wooba. Like, let's say that this show still goes on and that Nicole actually became the HoloLinks in this show. Do you think she would be the same voice actor? They would just like change her voice just a little. I imagine they would, right?
That's a good question. I mean, I feel like it makes sense to change because at that point she, because that's really, HoloLinks Nicole is very much she's almost a new character.
Yeah.
Kind of how I'm gonna throw a little MCU comparison here.
Yeah.
So like if we go back to Age of Ultron, Age of Ultron, he goes from an AI to, killer robot. And one of the things that he wants to do is he wants to evolve. And that's why he essentially creates the vision body, made out of, vibranium and with what we would find out would be the Mind Stone to kind of assume this next level, form. But of course, what remnants of Jarvis, takes over and, becomes, Vision. But again, it's kind of this, for, Nicole to, shed her typical AI form, take on, a physical or hard light or whatever you want to say. You would be, I would say they probably get a new voice actress. Or, Kath is one of the talented voice actresses, and the fact that she could probably
I think they should
create
just
a
use Kath. I think she'd be excellent. But
they probably would. She's got enough vocal range where she could. Because that thing is like her Sally is basically Kath's normal voice,
yes.
from what I've ever heard. So she doesn't really do much, alterations to it. So
Truth. Yep. So yeah, moving on. Inside, Sonic lands in a crystal tunnel, face to face with Nagas. Sally and Bunny still strapped in crystal. I guess I failed to mention that. What is it? Nagas keeps on. He questioned them. I guess I skipped over a certain scene. She questions who Nagas is, and he reveals who he is. But then, like, wait, where the hell my notes go? Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over a spot. Let me backtrack a bit here. Back. So yeah, meanwhile, in the void, Nagus has Sally and Bunny suspended midair. He demands to know where Sonic is, then hypnotizes Sally into revealing that he's in Robotropolis. Satisfied, he lets them go, only to encase them in crystal. He reverses his goal using Sonic speed to, he reverses his goal? I'm reading my notes weird. Reveals his goal using Sonic speed to escape. I wanted to point out a note here. Is this where, where Nagus puts Sally under a spell and he reveals that Sonic is the leader of the Freedom Fighters? It made me ask this question, I thought Sally was the leader of the Freedom Fighters. Is this go on?
It's really, at the end of the day, it's kind of a joint leadership. I mean, I think, if it came down to push comes to shove, Sally is obviously, as the princess, she's probably going to have generally the final say, but at the same time, Sonic is definitely, he's also the main weapon. He is the main, you know, force to oppose Robotnik. He's got the speed, he's got the power. Everyone else is just random people, but Sonic is, again, he's kind of the symbol. He's got the special powers. Plus, everyone loves him because he's awesome, and really, it's always one of the things I've always joked about, that if Sonic had cared enough, he could have probably threw over the Acorn dynasty.
Oh yeah.
If he wanted
oh
to.
yeah, definitely. Hands down.
And that was always one of the things where, and this is actually maybe jumping a little ahead, because when Sonic meets up with the King, King's very cordial with him. It's his final words are "take care of Sally for me," basically, paraphrasing, of course. But it's one of those things where, in Archie, his relationship with Sonic was very there are times where they were butting heads. There were times when they got along.
Yeah, he's very adversarial for some reason. Yeah.
And again, a lot of it depends on the writer. But even Ian got to the day where, even Ian kind of wrote him as kind of crotchety towards Sonic. But by then,
Did he?
Mac.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Ian had,
because I don't know, the way I saw it is always he's good guy. What's his name? What are they? What's his name?
Well, we I mean, obviously you get to the post reboot, but I'm talking the pre-reboot stuff.
Oh, okay, the pre-reboot. Okay, I was talking post reboot because they made him seem like he's good guy not Elias, that's the brother. Good guy Tim, good guy Nigel, guy Nigel. Man, my brain is broken today. Go on.
Yeah, and it's only at mid-afternoon.
I know.
Almost, I'm burning the midnight oil here. But Nigel in the post boot, very buddy with Sonic. Max, who again was pretty much the SatAM, Robotnik, or not Robotnik, SatAM, King evolved. The relationship was very weird at times. Or there was a really good conversation. I think it was right after Eggman came into town, but right before they did this. Yeah, it was right before the Sonic adventure, and it's right before he knighted Sonic. And they had this kind of little conversation about kind of just the order of things, and that, Sonic's always disobeying him, but at the same time, it's you're saving everyone. He kind of fully admits that he very much admires Sonic's ability to go with his gut, to do what he does, to be the hero, but at the same time he's got to kind of put on appearances, because Sonic is the secret weapon. He is the the main defender of Knothole. And when you have arguably the leader butting heads with the guy with all the power physically, that can that might throw some votes of no confidence in leadership. That might cause some issues on the home front.
Right. I don't know, because part of me wants to believe that when Sally being under the spell, and that she says that he's the leader of the Freedom Fighters, is this her kind of admitting to it, but she doesn't want to admit to it, but she's under a truth serum to where she has to admit it. Do you think that was the intention, or you think it was just something everybody knew that he was already the leader?
Um,
Because I don't remember where it is that's established where Sally is the leader of the Freedom Fighters. Maybe it was just Archie. I don't know.
it was definitely Archie.
Okay.
Definitely Archie.
Okay.
But
I want to believe that it was like it's Sally like not wanting to admit she wants to think she's the leader of the Freedom
nah,
Fighters.
I think at the
No?
end of the
Okay.
day, I think it's very much SatAM. They were very much a joint effort.
Okay.
They were much a tag team. Um,
Yeah, she's not
and
very
you
like pig-headed or anything. She doesn't want anything for herself. She's not particularly selfish. That's for sure.
and Archie, she was definitely kind of took charge a bit more.
Yes.
But she's also, again, you have to figure out, Sonic's personality. He's not exactly doing all the leader stuff.
Yes. Yeah, so continuing on, as I said prior, because I skipped around in my notes, because I need to leave a marker here to see where I leave off when we have comments about some of these moments that happen in the show. But yes, Sonic, as I said prior, Sonic lands in the Crystal Tunnel face to face with Nagus. Sally and Bunny are still trapped in Crystal and are freed as Nagus reveals his plan to Sonic, but Sonic, realizing that the portal is still open, makes a run for it. As the crystal walls rise to trap them, he spins through, breaking free into a massive crystal palace. Now, I want to point out one line here that Bunny says is, wait, actually, no, maybe I need to check the line. She says something about, like, this is the place where I want to have my wedding. I take it she probably didn't have a wedding that looked anything like this in the Archie book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her Buddy's wedding was very kind of, it was very typical. They had a little royal guard, not as, vibrant as what it is, but it was a nice wedding.
Okay. Yeah, it wasn't as. I thought that would have been a pretty good compliment if they did something like that, using that line of dialogue. But because I know Ian does a lot of that, and I really appreciate it. I think it's awesome. I really think it's great knowing we have somebody like that, writing things like this. But without further ado, let's move on. So inside the Crystal Palace, Sally notes its resemblance to her father's castle, and when they find the king lying weak in bed, Sally rushes to his side. He pleads for help, claiming that he can fix everything once freed from the void. Sonic, without hesitation, agrees. The king explains that Nagus' magic makes everything around them an illusion. They can escape anywhere using Sonic speed. With Sally urging him on, Sonic carries the king and dashes through a window, which becomes the portal out. As soon as this happens, Bunny gets a bad feeling about this, and then Ari, the tall, strapping Ram guy from the Game Guy episode, if you remember, reappears, or he appears in the castle, revealing that they've been tricked. Nagus took the king's form to manipulate Sonic. The real king is still inside, and Sally, overwhelmed, embraces him. Meanwhile,
I can't
yes,
believe they fell for that illusion. Like it would just it it just like Nagas deserves an Oscar for that performance because like
yeah,
they bit that, like he's like, I have to get out, Sonic take, and he kept like repeating it's like, whoa, like I can get all of you out. It's like, no, you must take me and me first. And it's like it, and obviously Sally's emotionally compromised because again it's her father, she's been looking for him,
yeah.
but at the same time it's like, let's take a step back here. Let's analyze. Something doesn't feel right. Oh, well, okay, then, yeah, there we go. There's a reason for that.
I
And
think
because then, because when, Max, Nigel, King, whatever you want to call him, actually shows up, he's like perfectly fine. He's like, it's me, Sally. I'm alive. And it's like, oh, daddy.
right. Well, I mean, she's still kind of a teenager, so I mean,
Yeah.
she's not exactly.
Again,
She's not the smartest girl in the world. So I mean, as we talked about, I know probably the show probably is. I'm probably giving the show too much credit, but I want to believe that they have some naivete, because they're rather young leaders. So I mean, especially like what is it for the first season? Like Sally like totally lets Antoine commit treason, and then nothing happens of it. Or
True.
the whole thing of like letting Sonic break the emerald in half and give it to Griff. You know what? I take everything back about Sally saying that she doesn't want to admit that he's the leader of the Freedom Fighters. She totally is. If he could do stuff like that, I mean, breaking up the emerald and giving it to Griff to power his city, without even consulting the rest of them, you know. But
It's one of those things like, Ben Hurst, everyone kind of talks about like no one on the Sonic side, the Freedom Fighters, King Acorn, blah 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 blah, whatever you want to call it. No one really has the ability to stop Sonic
right.
forcefully. Like unless they came up with I know they kind of joked, like in Archie, they came up with, they used the Neo Metal design for these like metal Sonic troopers to protect, the city of Acorn,
Mm-hmm.
not whole or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, at the same time, who legitimately can stop him if he wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it checks out. I mean, I get it. Uh, but anyway, meanwhile, Sonic escapes the void, dodging Robotnik's attacks, but disguised as the king, reveals himself as Nagus. Sonic, furious, confronts him, but is instantly crystallized from the neck down. Nagus gloats, saying he'll dispose of Robotnik himself, as he taunts the Doctor through a surveillance orb. A terrified Robotnik flees. Nagus catches up, and one moment that I particularly found though is before I get to my note, he catches up and he transforms Robotnik's head into different animal forms. Safely laughs uncontrollably. The best laugh that what's Snively's voice actor's name?
Charlie Adler.
This is like the best Charlie Adler laugh ever. Like this is like if this is for me, this is like the highlight of his career. That is like the best recorded. I mean, like I listen to a lot of laughs, and that's a good one. But anyway, yeah. So he falls out of his chair, Snively. So first and foremost, which Robotnik animal head is your favorite, Malzilla?
I like the monkey.
You like the monkey? I think I like the snail one the best. That or the crow. They're all pretty good. They're all good. So, a few questions, and I probably already know the answer to this one. Why does Robotnik get out of his vehicle, to confront Nagus if he wants to, if Nagus wants to kill him? Why not just run away?
Like,
I think I know the answer to this already, but yes.
Yeah. It's just a case like he's trying to negotiate. Like he's trying to talk his way out of it because he knows he can't beat him in a fight.
Yes.
His magic is too strong. I gotta he's gonna realize he's gotta talk his way out of it.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I figured maybe this like what I was talking about earlier that they're friends, and that they have some sort of relationship, and he's just trying to mend that relationship. Like, no, I made a mistake. My finger slipped. I pushed the wrong button and I trapped you there. It was an accident. I'm sorry. I imagine I'd like to picture my headcanon says that's what it is, but also the zone of silence, right? And we talked about earlier. How does it compare to the void?
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. Well, guys like floaty things and stuff, and then like, what is it? Max has like he's a dick, right? And he's got what is it? Minions and stuff, and it's like really dark, weird shit, and like.
I mean, they like Penders and them. They went a little further in. They developed it more. That's where they introduced Kodos, Umar Arachnus.
Yeah.
But they still had like the crystal and the emerald thing that kind of turned them into. It was kind of a case of if I recall correctly in Archie, when because obviously he was in it and Kodos was in it. I think Uma was in it before Max showed up. and it's a hard place to survive if you don't have magic. So, Nagas kind of came to him and says, "Hey, give me your kingdom and I'll let you survive." And that was kind of one of the big issues. Well, kind of one of the big debates, kind of in when the Nagas became king. One of the things that he kind of tried to like signify was that he was the true heir to the kingdom because Max promised him in exchange for safety in the void or zone of silence, and everyone's like, that's extortion, that doesn't count. But as in a way of art imitating predicting life, the people still voted for Nagas over Elias. So it's kind of like,
Oh, and later
what do you?
Archie.
Yeah, I mean
Okay, I
that
haven't
that
read
was
that issue, but okay, I didn't know that.
yep.
Okay, all right. Uh, anything else you want to say about this before I move on?
Move on.
Okay. Yeah, so back in the void, Sally anxiously awaits Sonic, but just as Bunny reassures her, Sonic arrives, ready to get everyone out. Meanwhile, outside, Nagus begins to crystallize, realizing he's been in the void too long to survive outside it. Tragically, the king suffers the same fate. Only Ari, imprisoned for a shorter time, remains unaffected. So, if I remember correctly, what is it? They get Max, or what's that? Help me out again here. I'm really like, I'm having trouble. His name's not Max in the Archie book. His name is not.
It's pre-boot is Max, post-boot is Nigel. He doesn't have a first name in SatAM.
Oh, really?
He's
Okay.
just the king.
Okay. So yeah, uh, the king. Well, what I guess I can call Max because the Max in the Archie book,
I still
he.
call him Max. It's what I know him. Like I think Max just kind of flows off the tongue more than Nigel does.
I mean, that's a pretty cool name, Max. Who wouldn't want to be called that? Fantastic
Maximilian.
Max. Yeah, to the max. It's pretty cool. I'd love that name. Uh, it's really good. I'll name my first son that. What is it? No. Because I think in the Archie book, the name Max is, or not the name Max. He crystallizes in the Archie book, but like they have a lot of trouble decrystallizing him. So, do you remember how do they not become crystals again? Did they figure this out?
Well, they do. It's a lot of source of all shenanigans.
Oh,
The fourth Sonic, Archie Sonic Super Special was called The Return of the King, and that was kind of Nagas. It kind of set off the events for Sonic and Tails leaving Knothole to go chase after Nagas, because
okay.
like he kind of possessed the king,
Oh, that's
and
right. Yeah, I remember
they
this.
needed the crown and the sword of acorns because they were made of the source of all to cure Max and yada yada, and it's a lot of mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, it's Archie gets pretty dense. After
Yeah,
Robotnik is killed off in issue 50. Yeah, but again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. And this is a pretty Archie heavy episode, I gotta say.
that is
Um,
like, and again, I when I said Ken took notes and of how he to like I said, this would let this episode influenced a lot of what would run through courses of Sonic
yeah, yeah.
into all through the pre-boot into the post-boot. Though Ian did some interesting things with Nagus, though he was no longer Ixis Nagus in the post-boot, he was Walter Nagus, aka Wally.
What? I didn't know this. Okay,
Yeah, so
all right.
basically in the post-boot, Nagus, aka Walter Wally Nagus, was the brother of Wendy Nagus, aka Wendy Witchcart Nagus. So
Okay.
basically, they made Witchcart from
God
the
damn,
Tales
you really do
adventure.
your homework. All right.
I just know this stuff. It's my brain is just I don't know.
Well, you
I
have way
word
more of an
myself.
encyclopedic knowledge of, of this than I do.
I'm
It's like
I
it's
am a
funny. I
king
meet
of
people.
use.
Go on. Yes.
I'm a king of useless information.
No, it's not useless information. It's like, okay, for me, to me, this is like, I don't know, somebody comes up to me and they're like, man, Radley, you're a Sonic mega fan. I'm like, I don't think so. I'm like, I can't recite Archie. I can't recite these things. I don't remember all this stuff. I haven't read all the books. I don't play all the games. You know, technically, I'm kind of a bad fan in a lot of ways. You know, I didn't buy Origins. You know, that sort of thing. I mean, probably just because I don't like the idea of paying for microtransactions, but I don't know. I mean, I have a Sonic collection, but it's nowhere like, I don't know, what some of these guys have. What's his name? Sam Procrastinates? Who's the other guy?
Mm-hmm.
Who's the guy with, like, the goatee? Well, I guess that's Sam Procrastinates. The other guy with the goatee. Who has a huge Sonic collection. I don't know.
Fidel?
Nah, not Fidel. It's a different guy. Anyway, again, we're talking about things that don't matter, but that will matter in another episode. Yeah, so basically, to continue on the episode, Sally is devastated, but the king hands her a device containing a list of all the freedom fighter groups. They say their tearful goodbyes as Sonic rushes Sally out. Nagus, before vanishing back into the void, swears revenge on Robotnik. Sonic holds a weeping Sally as the portal closes. Now, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I want to point this out here so we don't have to talk about it in the later episode since we're already in it, before I forget. So, in a later episode that we'll get to today, the Cry of the Wolf episode, it's revealed that there are 5 known groups. Now, I was trying to think about this while taking a shower because, you know, this is one of your many shower thoughts. Like, who are those other 5, Archie group, or excuse me, those other 5 freedom fighter groups? I mean, I don't know if I'll receive heat from saying this because some people refuse to refer to this. I was thinking of the freedom fighters from Down Under. Or Down Under. Yeah, maybe people think that's derogatory if you say Down Under. Or the Australian freedom fighters. I don't know what's politically correct. I don't know what's the preferred term. That's the only one I can think of. Can you think of the other 5 they're possibly talking about? Because I don't think they talk about them at all in the show.
We do see them.
Excuse me, other end. 4.
We do see some of the leaders of the other ones, but Archie. You had the Arctic Freedom Fighters.
Oh, that's right.
You had the Sandblast City Looney Tunes knockoffs. Yeah, I mean
knockoffs. Man, we need to do I need to do a deep dive on Archie again. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
You need to read it, man. You need to say I'm gonna read it, and I'm not gonna, There's these characters. There was a Roadrunner. There was a Coyote. Their main one looked like Bugs Bunny. His name was Jack Hare. There's one guy named Tex. There was another one named Avery.
I don't remember.
I mean, again.
Oh, wait. Maybe I do remember this. Were they sea
If
creatures?
You saw a picture. No. Oh, there was the Freedom Fighters from 2000 Fathoms. There's them too.
Jesus Christ. I'm so glad you're here because I would not remember any of this. Well, it's also been a while since I've read Archie. I mean, I have all of the books, scans of it on my phone, right? Thanks to lovely people on the internet, but
again,
some of the issues. They're hard to fucking find, man.
You just got to be able to actually, put in the time and the effort to actually read them.
Oh, we will, and we'll get into it. I mean, we have an excuse. We have this show, so we will get to it. So yeah, to wrap things up with the episode, later at the Lake of Rings, Sally remains downcast. And Sonic reminds her that she...
Oh, did we talk about the fact that, the crystals, they had to go back to the void?
Yeah, we did.
Did we talk about...
Yes.
Okay. I think I got lost in all the other sauce.
No, it's easy to get lost in this sauce in this show. Because there was hard... Sometimes it's hard to put this together.
We tangent so much. That's what I meant.
Yeah, I need to put, I'm going to share with you my notes next time and put a little marker where I leave off. I could probably send them to you now. Anyway... so Sonic reminds her that at least they got to see her father, and now they have the key to uniting the freedom fighters. I love this little cute moment between them. I really do. So she agrees, and they walk together, playfully teasing each other. And Nicole siding with Sonic and calls him way past cool. I'm telling you, man, Son Cole, I love it. So leaving Sally wondering what he's done to her. What have you done to my woman, Sonic? What have you done? So, Son Cole, Malzilla, how would you rate this ship and the episode?
I mean, the episode is a solid, A episode for me.
Yeah,
Again,
for
it's
me,
fun,
A plus, A plus.
Okay.
One of the few.
Um, it's the ending, of them, being sad. I mean, I get it. It has a few hangups there, but it's a really solid episode, and you have to give it for all the influence it would have on the franchise going forward.
Hell yeah.
Like, absolutely. It's one of those ones where it's like you pull this one out, and it's like, okay. It's weird because when you look back to like all that stuff that Ian would write, what Axler would write, what Ken would write, all this stuff originated from this episode. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a catalyst, man. That's why I give it an A plus. It's really good in rewatch. I mean, I don't know if I liked it when I was a kid based on that story I told you earlier, but yeah, this one's great. I mean, sure, you could probably find holes here and there, but I mean, it's one of the better episodes in my opinion. This is like, even though it's not like the penultimate episode or a starter episode, it's still pretty good. It's like I don't know. You bit into a burrito and you found that there was cocaine in the middle of it, or I don't know. You found out there was something great in the middle of it. I don't know. Not cocaine.
I'm
Sorry.
sure they made those in the 80s.
Yeah. Okay. 80s burritos. There you go. The special ones from Mexico. Yeah.
No, that's, those were the Colombian burritos.
Yeah.
Well, because that's all the coke came from Colombia. Pablo Escobar.
Yes. I prefer it when real world stuff doesn't make it into Sonic. I mean, sure, I'll make exceptions with the something reeks in Topeka, and I've said this over 20 times, so sue me. Lines like this, I'll accept those, but I don't need more than that. Keep Earth out of Sonic. I think a lot of people would agree with me, but I guess the Sonic movies don't agree with me. But anyway, I'm digressing again. Let's dive into an episode that is not so good. That isn't good. Yes?
We got another double episodes. Let's see if we can, we talked a lot about the Void. Let's see if we can there's not much to talk about these episodes.
Yeah, no, I don't have many notes. I don't have much at all. The description here for the review is pretty short, so we'll be able to get through this pretty quickly because I don't have much to say. Do you?
Yeah, let's burn through. I mean, I'll wait till you cover the episodes. We'll go for it.
All right, so yeah, this next episode is a double episode. First episode being The Odd Couple, written by Len Jansen, and then Ro-Becca, as in Robot Becca, written by Pat Ali. So, it's winter in the Great Forest, and Dulcie is flying through a brutal snowstorm, trying to land, with her knee pads on from the previous episode. Down on the ground, and Sonic and Antoine are struggling to guide her in, but visibility is awful, and Antoine is using binoculars, but classic Antoine doesn't realize that they're covered in snow. Sonic brushes them off, spots Dulcie, and starts signaling her with light batons. But Antoine's frantic and contradictory directions just confuse everyone, and before long, Dulcie crash lands straight into a row of huts, including Sonic, and he's now homeless. But I guess he's always been homeless. I guess if you're a SOJ apologist, this is, yeah.
Technically, I'm homeless.
Yeah. We wag our finger at this show. How dare you give Sonic a home?
Had one in Boom.
Did he really? Oh, yeah, he did. I forgot about that. All right. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, Sonic needs a place to stay.
Let Sonic have a shack. Hashtag Sonic Shack forever.
Yes. Oh, I probably should say it's not just Sonic that doesn't have a place to live. Sally and Tails and Bunny all get out of their huts, and they also say, "Oh man, what are we gonna do? Where are we gonna sleep?" Right? Because the destruction, I guess, destroyed more than one hut, or was it just one?
It destroyed several, and they they kind of mentioned that some of them have to double up.
Okay. Um.
Somehow, I'd like to imagine that Sonic tried to get to share a hut with Sally, but
These are the
Buddy
only
beat him to it.
these are the only comments I really have about this entire episode. Um. Can you say that given this episode, the way Antoine fucks up, Dulcie's landing, you could say this is all on him and he shouldn't be bitching at all because this is all his fault, technically.
Yeah. Do we want to just speed run this one really quick?
Yeah, sure.
Because I
What's
have
up?
some thoughts. Okay, so basically, folks, so we don't end up digressing, and apologies if I'm trying to rush things. It's a little late on my end of the table, but so yeah, Dulcie crashes, and ultimately Sonic has to bunk with Antoine, and Antoine does not enjoy it. He does not enjoy it very much. From the mud snow that Sonic tracks in to Sonic's cooking of chili dogs in a very nice kitchen that Antoine has
Yeah,
in
he's
his
very fancy. Well, he's like, what is it? This show's like based upon a play by what is it? Neil Simon called The Odd Couple, same name. I imagine Len Jansen probably just made this because he wanted to retell The Odd Couple with his favorite character. That's my only guess. I mean, I don't know. I'll
yeah.
tell you one thing. Sally does not look happy at the end of this episode after they
No,
mash
it's
another
not-
they mash another hut. So
Yeah. But yeah, so Sonic has, he starts speed running in his sleep, and Antoine just loses it and starts and once Sonic wakes up, he sees Antoine just going crazy, and he says, "You know what? This is too crazy. I'm out. I'm gonna go rebuild my hut." And that's basically. And then of course, like a tree, Antoine, like a tree gets knocked into Antoine's hut, but it's actually the best of the 4 minisodes.
you
I'm
think
not gonna
so?
lie.
Okay, I guess you're right. I guess you're
I
right.
take this over Ro-Becca. I take this over the little
Ghost
ghost
busted, ghost
ghost
busts.
busted,
Yeah,
and it's better than the biker ones.
yeah. No, I think you're right. I mean, as much as this episode is like, what do they call a bottle, where it has nothing to do with the rest of the season or the show itself. So it's all self-contained. Um, one question I wanted to ask you about this it's interesting to me. Do you think Sonic volunteered or Sonic lost a bet for why he's with Antoine?
Oh, I'm sure he lost a bet. He probably lost a game of rock paper scissors.
I was
I,
also go
I,
on, yeah.
I'm sure. Again, like I said, I'm sure he wanted to bunk with Sally because a little snow out, a little turn on the fire, light some candles, a little smooch smooch. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, because I was also
But
thinking, is Sonic in the doghouse? Is that why Sonic's been kicked out into Antoine's house? Because he takes it very like nonchalantly, just like, "Hey, Antoine, we're staying together." Because he's never one to show emotions, really.
he's probably he's playing his disappointment close to the vest.
Yeah.
It's not. He doesn't want to think Sally is winning.
All right.
I don't know.
All right.
I'm just bullshit.
I don't think I would eat Sonic's chili dogs if he gave them to me. Would you?
They do not very look appealing.
No, I don't really like green olives or onions. It's way too many damn onions. So
I like cooked onions.
do you? Okay.
Raw onions are kind of but give me a little sautéed caramelized onions on like a burger or hot dog. Hell yeah.
So, in this scenario, which roommate are you more like, Sonic or Antoine? Felix, Unger, or the other guy?
I'm definitely more like Sonic. I'm a little bit. I'm not a clean freak like Ant is.
I think I'm more like Antoine. I don't think we could be roommates.
I would not deny that comment.
One thing I want to ask is one really weird, odd thing in this episode that stuck out to me was Antoine has stuffed animals with like sleeping masks on while he's wearing a sleeping mask. And this made me ask like weird. One question. Is Antoine, I mean, serious question, I'm serious. is Antoine gay or is he just an otaku? I think he's just an otaku. He's just like one of these people who lives at home and likes these very strange things.
He's French.
Best answer. Best answer. Um, two. Second question. Does what is it? Does he do this all the time? I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Also, I want to point out too at the end of this episode, Sonic when he's packing his suitcase, like Antoine, like when he goes ape shit because he can't deal with Sonic's behavior. He throws and he hits like a Grover / like Gonzo type snowman outside. There's no Grover Gonzo type characters in Archie, right?
Not to my recollection, no.
Okay. All right. Well, what's your review of this episode, Malzilla?
All things considered, I'd actually give it about a 3. Like a low, like maybe
3 out of 5?
2.5. Yeah, 2.5 to somewhere between 2.5 and a 3 out of 5.
Give...
What? Oh, am I running? Oh, wait a minute. I'm on the letter scale because I gave the last one an A. On this one, I'd give it a C minus.
Really? Okay. I'd give it I'll give it the same thing. C minus. I'd definitely watch it over. What's that one where they go to space? Sonic Boom or something? Sonic in Space. I like this much better than the Sonic in Space. So, moving on, we got Ro-Becca. This to really briefly go over what this episode is about. This episode begins with Rotor and hard at work at his workshop, trying to finish a robot named Ro-Becca for some reason. Obviously, clear homage to Bride of Frankenstein, and an homage to Disney's Fantasia because they even play a rendition of the music.
Well, see, here's the interesting thing, and I say this because Sonic SatAM originally aired on ABC.
Yes.
Now, here's the interesting thing. Disney purchased ABC in 1995.
Mm-hmm.
So only a few, less than a year after this episode changed. And usually when you have those big purchase acquisitions, they're usually a year or so in the making.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very possible that, and maybe I'm off on this, I could be.
Okay.
So don't hold this as gospel.
No.
It could be a case that the Disney deal was already in the works, so maybe that's why they had access to some of the music.
Oh, okay.
Maybe,
yeah, no, I didn't. Okay.
But at the same time, you think about it, ABC didn't. It aired on ABC, but ABC didn't actually fund it. So I honestly could be completely just talking out my ass, which probably am. So.
Huh. Yeah. So yeah, briefly tripping over a mechanical leg. Antoine, no. What do you call this? Antoine accidentally turns Ro-Becca on.
Mm-hmm.
Not in that way, but well, I guess maybe no, in that way later in the episode.
Yeah, she gets kind of
a clear homage to Frankenstein's monster, where you even have Antoine tripping on all the levers and all the the electricity strikes her to life, and him saying she's alive, blah blah blah. Antoine tries to leave and claiming he's hurt, and there's a lot of back and forth between Ro-Becca and this character. Now this characterization of Ro-Becca, who is this? Is this Pepe? Is this Pepe Le Pew meets the crazy Mayan? The not Jessica Rabbit from Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Sounds.
That's gotta be. That's my only conclusion I can draw from this. I don't know. All I can say is tunes. Gets them every time. So yeah, basically to kind of sum up this episode, in Antoine's hut, Ro-Becca feeds him a bolt-filled soup, and he refuses to eat it. And then Antoine struggles to break free, and Rhoda tries to shut off Ro-Becca, calming down Antoine. But then Rhoda goes to reprogram her, and then he fails to reprogram her, and then she breaks free, and then breaks free from her straps and heads to Antoine's hut again, and then Antoine acquiesces. And then the final scene, as I mentioned in the start of this episode, Antoine realizes he has to use some fake Austrian accent, which is a clear homage to Arnold Schwarzenegger at the time, because he's really popular then. Maybe not so popular now. I don't know if anybody would recognize him now. But
Arnold?
Yeah, maybe they would. I don't know. It's still
big.
Yeah,
he's big on social media.
Okay, all right.
He's got a whole little like weightlifting thing going on, like newsletter thing.
How old is he? Like in the 70s, 80s, maybe?
Oh. He's not that old.
Okay, all right.
I mean, his daughter married Chris Pratt.
Oh,
after he divorced
Anna
Faris.
Right. I did know this.
Actually, he's 77. Okay, he's actually older than I thought. I thought he was gonna be like late 60s. No, he's almost 80.
Wow. Well, I don't know. I figured he was around that age. Anyway, so as soon as she, what is it? Ro-Becca is like not really into Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice for some reason, and then she tries to like hook up with Sonic, and then Sonic just decides, I don't know, Ro-Becca chases Sonic, but then eventually returns to Antoine after being rejected by Sonic, much to Antoine's frustration. So what is this episode? I mean, I have this whole thing I could ask you about what this episode is, but let me ask you, what is this episode?
It's, I don't know. I feel bad because it's like, this is the most Rotor's got to do in season 2. And if it was just him,
you're right.
I'd be fine. Yes. But no, he's got to share it with Antoine, and Antoine's like basically the star of all these freaking half episodes. It's like, dear God, stop it. Let Bunny have one of these little half episodes.
Right. I don't know. To me, everybody's going to hate me for saying this, but like this, the first thing that came into my head when I was watching this thing, the first thing that came into my head is this a woke episode? And what I mean by that, I have a meaning for this. I know people are probably rolling their eyes after I say that, but the reason why I say that is this is kind of like I'll say this. Now, I was listening to a podcast not too long ago, and they saying the problem with the word when you call something woke is that's just the incorrect word. The word you're supposed to use is insincere. That's what people are trying to say. They're not trying to say. What they mean by that is, in terms of this being insincere, is I get the impression that Pat Ali, when she wrote this episode, like, let's do a episode where it's a reverse, Pepe Le Pew, and it's, what do you call that? It's a reverse Pepe Le Pew, and it's like Bride of Frankenstein, but it's not, but it's with this robot character, right? But it just doesn't work, So, I don't know. My letter grade, I don't know, man.
It's a D. It's a solid D.
F-, man. This is awful. Awful. It is bad. I can't believe this is a Sonic episode. Bad.
He's barely even in it.
Yeah, right? Ugh, dude. All right, well, let's finish up with our final one. Cry the Wolf, directed by Ron Myrick, written by Pat Ali. Hold on, my notes are weird here. Oh, so a doomsday pod emerges from the great unknown and is attacked by the wolf pack, causing it to crash. Meanwhile, in Robotropolis, Snively informs Dr. Robotnik about the sabotage, but Robotnik is too focused upon gushing about his doomsday project. After Snively repeatedly interrupts him, Robotnik orders him to fix the pod and to catch the wolf pack. What do you think about this pod? I really got Terminator 2 HK aerial vibes.
Oh yeah, I mean that was the whole vibe of it. I honestly didn't have a whole lot of feelings for it. It's like, oh, it's just secret weapon testing,
Yeah, I
We
felt the
got
same way, really. But yes, Sonic, Sally, and Antoine and Dulcie arrive in the Great Unknown to find freedom fighters using Nicole. They learn that the Wolfpack is the only group in the area, and Sonic heads towards their base. After encountering dangerous storm clouds and a rough landing, Sonic leads them safely. But they soon hit a dead end in a canyon. There, they discover ancient hieroglyphics warning of a curse. Antoine accidentally activates a hidden passage, and while Dulcie refuses to enter due to claustrophobia, Sonic and Sally decide to go down. Antoine joins them, but trips, rolling into the dark tunnel where they are watched by unseen eyes, prompting Antoine to panic about the curse. Do you remember that this is also another Archie issue by Many Hands?
yes, it was a random thing that they did like they're like minor, it felt like they needed to like stall for a month of time. So let's go retell a SatAM episode
Yeah, it's
episode.
bad. It's everything about that issue is bad. The cover's okay. I take that back. The cover's really cool. It's really cool. The issue itself, garbage. Um, but yes, Sonic and Sally and Antoine then venture out and venture into a dangerous tunnel and encounter traps set by a mysterious force. As Sonic impulsively rushes ahead against Sally's best interest, he does this a lot in this episode. The group eventually encounters a Wolfpack member who leads them to the Wolfpack's hidden home. There, they learn about the tragic history of the Wolfpack, whose land was destroyed by Robotnik's Doomsday Pod. So I guess these Doomsday things have existed for a while. So, I mean, based upon how much they've advanced.
It was one of those things where they mentioned it and then they're like, "Oh yeah, these Doomsday plots we've dealt with them before." It's like eh, even like Sonic talks about them, and I'm like, "These are new. What are you guys talking about?" So
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Lupe, the Wolfpack leader, joins forces with the Freedom Fighters to stop Robotnik, and they begin to prepare to fight back using a cannon that they've acquired. Robotnik using Snively, he screams his head off, trying to repair the Doomsday Pod, unaware that the Freedom Fighters are planning to destroy it. So the Wolfpack here, right? This is I pretty sure I have notes that this is supposed to be an allegory for like U.S. Native Americans. Is my
yeah,
understanding?
it's interesting because again, there's definitely the strong, influence of Native Americans, but one of the weird things is in Archie, they still have the Native American vibe, but they also have a very strong Spanish vibe
Do
because
they? I don't
yeah,
remember
so
this.
basically, Lupe in, the comics, she had a whole family. Her husband was named Lobo. She had a son named
Oh,
Marcos and
that's
Maria.
right. I remember
And
this.
th- and again, the Wolfpack, they all had, you know, it was very, very had a lot of strong. Now, Lita and Lyco, there's one named Diablo and Kane. Yeah, it was kind of weird, but again, but clearly they try to go for a very strong you know Native American vibe, which it makes a lot more sense than the Spanish one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, one thing that kind of confuses me about this though is that she said that there's only 10 of them left, but yet they're really tech savvy in like the middle of nowhere. How? But I don't know. Maybe they're just they're smart in terms of like being tech savvy, but they're not smart in terms of surviving. I don't know. So I don't know. Lupe, thoughts? Do you have any? Something you want to share about her?
Lupe is awesome. She was voiced by Shari Belafonte, who was
Yes.
the daughter of, oh God, who was her?
Harry?
Her dad was her dad was a famous singer. Hold on, let
Deo.
me pull it up.
Harry Belafonte, right?
Harry Belafonte, he was a singer, actor, civil rights activist, popularized calypso music in the 50s and 60s. So, she's kind of a celebrity. She was like a model and photographer. And, for those of you who are 18 years or older, which most of you should be, because we like to consider ourselves a mature
Yeah,
podcast.
we swear we say really inappropriate jokes. So yeah.
Well, Shari, she voiced Lupe in like 93, 94. She posed for Playboy in 2000s, and it's out there. She's quite beautiful. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, so Happy Master. So in the thrilling showdown, Sonic plants explosive where while the Wolfpack, fires at the Doomsday Pod, eventually triggering a rock slide that, buries it. While the group celebrates, Antoine believes that they've broken the curse, but only for the Doomsday Pod to emerge once again, signaling that the battle is not over. Our heroes are now trapped as the Doomsday Pod attacks with Robotnik's hovercraft, preventing their escape, and Sonic then asks Sally to trust him again and devises a plan by pulling out a power ring and disposes of the Doomsday Pod again. And they think this is it for the pod, but then they cheer. Sonic kisses Sally, but despite the second apparent of victory, the Doomsday Pod raises again, frustrating the heroes. Snively, meanwhile, receives instructions from Robotnik to find the Wolfpack, who are hiding in the caves. And after some confusion and an explosion, Snively uncovers the Wolfpack's entrance. Inside their home base, Sonic and Sally just struggle with their impatience, and Antoine's blabbing about the curse. I love Sonic's, little line here of like, "There's never a curse! There's not a curse! There's never been a curse!"
Stop trying to make a thing happen.
Yeah. But then Lupe confirms that there is, in fact, no curse, but uses the threat of the idea to deter intruders. The group plans to trap the SWAT bots, leading to Sonic and Sally being captured and taken aboard Robotnik's hovercraft. There, they escape their handcuffs, subdue Snively, and download important data from the hovercraft's computer. Their goal is to destroy the Doomsday Pod. I love how, Sally, she knows how to use, a laser on Nicole to, get out of handcuffs. Tell me this is not a plot hole. This is like, what is it? The Birds and Lord of the Rings. They could have just used the Birds and Lord of the Rings to drop the ring in, where is it? The Mount Hood? Where was it? Where they dispose of the ring, Lord of the Rings. The name's escaping me.
Mount Doom.
Mount Doom, thank you. But tell me that's not a plot hole. Did you think about this or no?
Honestly, I didn't really think of it as a plot hole because, quite frankly, it's kind of why. I feel like Nicole packing some secret heat, like a taser function, makes sense to me.
Okay.
Because again, kind of a self-defense program, so just be able to I don't see it being like a full-on laser gun, but doing a little tase, don't tase me, bro.
Yeah. I also want to point out, I also like how the Wolfpack is gullible enough to trust Sonic and Sally. No wonder there's only 10 of them left. They haven't even known each other for too long. But I guess what is it? No, knowing my dad is the king is get out of jail free card, I guess.
Pretty much.
Yeah, because what is it? Even Griff's team is 22 people or something. But
his city of 30 people.
Was it 30?
I think it was 30.
Okay. Or was it Knothole that's 20? I don't know. I'm not keeping track. I'm sure somebody is. If we have Groovy Jake, who might join the show if you made it this far into the episode, he may join us. We're gonna think about asking him to join us for the wrap up of this show. And
Dobbs is also interested in.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll
see.
Him.
It's in the works, ladies and germs. So, yes. So Sally's plan involves luring the pod into some storm clouds, as shown earlier in the episode when Sonic gets fried by them. Sonic speeds through the storm, lightning strikes the Doomsday pod, and then it turns into ash. With the pod destroyed, the heroes celebrate and contact the other freedom fighter leaders. I guess like this was going on in the background where I guess they need to wrap up this show pretty quickly for I guess because the Sega Saturn was tanking or something was going on that they realized they had to get rid of Robotnik for some reason. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah. So basically, she gets a paper right after they destroy the pod. They get a paper saying that they found the other freedom fighters and that they'd agree, to defeat Robotnik and end the Doomsday Project. I love how where did this? I'm asking myself, where did this paper come from? I imagine it's probably from one of those birds that they use, like in the void.
Yeah,
And
the
carrier
little
pigeons.
carrier pigeon dragonfly.
Yeah. Because they don't really go into too much detail about this. I mean, to me, this ends like a stage play. It's like, yay, we defeated the pod, and yay, we have the plans, and they agreed to do it tonight. But anyway, so the episode concludes with Sonic, Sally, Lupe, and Ari, who's back from the Void episode, and the others in Knothole. They raise their glasses to cheer and to take on their next challenge. End of episode. So, Malzilla, letter grade, thoughts?
I I give this a B plus.
Okay.
It's not quite on the A level,
Yeah.
but it's pretty solid. I always liked Lupe. She was a really interesting character. They did some really weird things with her character in the Archie books, both pre and post. Um, just a little difference. Like, so obviously, Preboot played a little bit, pretty much more close to what we saw in this episode. Again, she had a family, she had a husband, she had two kids.
Oh, yeah. That's
But they
right.
got roboticized, blah blah blah, and they had this multi-issue backstory, kind of in the post Eggman time, where the wolf pack was like 4 or 5 guys, wolves, and Lupe decided to leave to find, leave Knothole with her crew to find their, go back to their homeland, which eventually, in by the time Ian got to it, was like down in South America, what was, the remnants of South America, crazy cat country next to Station Square, and that he would write a little story between them and the Felindade, cat people. But again, you had this thing where, like, you see them like inner tube raft through like what looks to be like the ruins of Kansas City, Missouri, or St. Louis, Missouri,
Yeah,
and
it
because I,
does look like that. Yes.
yeah, and that's which obviously it was because it's future Earth,
Yeah.
but she also ends up adopting these two human girls and kind of a Romulus and Remus type. Their names were Ariel and Athena. One of them was like Athena was mutant, but Ariel wasn't, so she ended up being like the talker between the two of them, and they all got along pretty well. And then, but yeah, like in Preboot, she was like in her 20s and or 30s, but then in Post Boot, they reduced her age so that I think Ian said she's only maybe a year or two older than Sally. And that, they were from kind of similar, Wolfpack tribe, but she was like the guardian of one, like the Gaia temples or something.
Okay.
And, her village was like attacked, and like the early junior freedom, like when the freedom fighter, like the post boot freedom fighters were like trying to save her village, they kind of helped her out when she was like super scared. Which there's some really cool, like, and they gave her a really nice like art, like Segafied design, and you can kind of see where definitely now. Of course, they also gave her blob feet, and here at the Sonic Coast to Coast podcast, we firmly deny all. We are blob feet deniers.
Yes, we are.
We say no. Just say no to blob feet,
Yes.
right, Radrey? Just
Yes.
say no to blob feet. But yeah,
I
they
don't know.
kind of gave her
Blob feed is what you eat or what you drink when there's nothing else to drink or eat.
exactly. But yeah, she was kind of cool. I wish they'd kind of done a little bit more with her, but yeah, she's kind of like a little bit of a big sister because again, she was a couple years older than the rest of them.
Yeah.
But again, she's got her spear. She kind of looks like a badass, and you could definitely see where like when Evan designed Whisper, you could see obviously again they're both wolves, so you could see kind of a lot of early Whisper in her design.
Yes. Yes.
So if Whisper is the shy Awu, Lupe is the OG Awu.
There you go. How many awoos out of 5 do you give this episode?
Um,
Well, I guess you said you gave it a
again,
B plus, so that's like what, three
yeah,
and a
to be
half?
flat, yeah, that's about a solid four to four
Really?
and a half.
I'd say 3.5, but okay. I mean, if I were to give it, if we were rating it a woos, I would give it, yeah, a 3.5. It's good. It's a
I mean,
decent. It's decent.
it's a solid. I would say it's not as good as the best of season 2,
No.
but it is pretty on par with the best of season 1.
I would pretty much say if you needed to skip it, it's fine. I mean, it's a decent SatAM episode. It's
I
fine.
wouldn't skip it
Really?
because
You wouldn't skip it?
because of the fact that Lupe would be a character that we would be seeing very
Oh, and
much
later in Archie,
till
you mean?
through basic again.
That's fair. That's fair.
She showed up like again this episode to an extent, The Void and Blast the Past, especially rewatching this in if you've read Archie, if you know anything about Archie, it was really interesting to see how much from these episodes they would pull, expand, change, tweak, and adjust for the comic run. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you may not like it, but I think you have to respect its influence.
Perfectly fair. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, that's a really good way to look at it, I think. Okay. All right.
Did are you looking at it in a more favorable light now? You're like, Malzilla, he so eloquently changes my mind with his little.
That's why I'm here, man. I mean, like it's just me talking about this show and looking at it by myself. It's like I'm gonna go insane, man. That's the definition. That's the definition of insanity. You know, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So
This
yes,
is
yes,
true.
you did. No, I mean that does paint a different light on it because I mean, the Archie series, as beloved as it is pretty dense and it has a lot of its fans. And like I don't know, you still see things from Archie popping back up into current Sonic, particularly what's his name, Abraham Tower in the Shadow Generations
It,
short that showed up.
that is kind of an interesting one because it like he was just called the gun commander in Shadow 5. Like he originated in Shadow 5. So he's a Sega guy.
Right.
But, in a weird and even Ian talked about it cuz before they kind of put the mini gag order on the Bumblecast, Generations had come out so he's able to, to talk about it, but it was kind of one of those
Yeah.
really kind
R.I.P.
of random occurrence. Yeah. I mean, Bottomcast's still going on, but it's definitely doesn't quite feel like its old self. But
No.
you know, Ian kind of said that when they were talking about this, he's like, yeah, and we called him Abraham Tower, and they decided to go with it. Now I don't know exactly how because that's one of those weird things with the legal rights, especially with the Archie books, is like even though like characters like from when he said like Nicole and even like Breezy in the post but like like the HoloLinks design in Nicole, like the Breezy redesign, like a lot of the stuff supposedly is technically owned by Archie design wise,
Hmm.
whereas the characters themselves are owned by Sega.
Right.
So it's kind of one of those weird things, and especially with Abraham Tower being the fact that he is a game character, and they gave him without a name in the games, but they gave him a name in the comics, and the fact they were able to pull that name from the comics to the games going forward is really interesting because again, if you think about it, again, the King Acorn doesn't have a first name in the show. They'd call him Max in the comics. But then when the reboot came, they couldn't call him Max anymore because technically Ken trademarked Maximilian Acorn, so they renamed him Nigel. So it's one of those things where it's like it's the same character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I don't know. All I can say is that Archie Sonic stands. You know, we do not forget, we do not forgive. It has over. Well, I won't repeat the rest of that. If anybody who knows the the 4chan Anon quote, I'm just gonna get myself canceled or in trouble. So I'll let you fill in the blank if you know that one. Yes, we do not forgive, we do not forget. So Archie Sonic, it rules. I love it, even though it gets weird and the writing gets awful. I don't know. Maybe call it nostalgia bias. Call it what you will. Call it the best thing you ever read. Call it, I don't know what you want to call it. So I guess with that being said, do you want to close out the episode? Do you want to shut her down?
Yeah, let's call it here. So just kind of give you the next thing because basically this is the penultimate episodes. The next time, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the next episodes, which of course are going to be uh Druid Hedge, Spy Hog, and then obviously the Doomsday Project to wrap it all up, and then we'll cover those three, and then I think afterward we'll have our big rest in power, rest in peace, SatAM, look at it as a whole.
Yes. We might have some guests joining us. So stay
Yeah, I think
tuned.
we've had some interest from some guests, and then after that, maybe we'll take a break. Maybe we'll jump into you know, the next thing. There's a lot of Sonic news right now. We didn't really talk about it at the beginning, but it is worth noting that we finally got the first gameplay announcement. Well, they teased Sonic Racing Crossworlds at the Winter Game Show in December, but they
Yes.
gave us the first trailer for it. I
Because
thought
somebody
about doing a
leaked
little
it,
mini.
right?
Some of the images got leaked, which is just part of the course for this day and age in the internet. But it was literally like the day before, so it debuted on PlayStation's State of Play, and racing games are hard. I was gonna do a whole little mini-sode, but I didn't think it'd be there's just not enough information on it at the moment. But we did get a little bit. We got um the main mechanic of it is the fact that like in a typical like 3-lap race, your first lap will be a regular lap around the map, but then enter the second lap, two warp rings will pop up, and the leader, like who's ever in first place, gets to choose what the net where they warp off to. So lap 2 is in a different location. Like they showed some tracks of lots of Sonic and the Secret Rings inspired tracks. There's the Dinosaur Valley, there's this pirate ship wreck.
Just what I wanted.
Yeah, I mean, so and then like after that lap, they go back to like the main lap for the main map for the last third lap, but the maps changed a little bit. Like for example, Metal Harbor from Sonic Adventure 2 is a map, and it's got a remix of its music, and that was a fun level, so that it looks pretty good. Um, a lot of characters, both announced, pretty much your standard every main character. Sage is showing up. So Sage is going to be a playable character
In the
with
most
her little
wacky of wackiest racers design, yes.
yeah, she's got her little Gigantomobile. They did announce that there is, unlike Team Sonic Racing, there's going to be post-launch content. There's going to be DLC down the road. My guessing, maybe some new additional maps, maybe some new additional racers. Um, they did announce that there are going to be Sonic Prime characters,
What?
so maybe
This I didn't
yeah.
know. Wow. Okay.
I threw that up in the Discord chat.
Did you? Okay, I must have like been
Yeah,
like half paying attention because I was at work or
yeah,
something.
yeah. So yeah, my guessing you're probably going to get like a Dread Knuckle skin, a Rusty Rose skin, maybe a
Wow.
Nine skin for Tails. Like again, from what I understand, from what I've heard, that Sega Hardlight is the main studio designing this one, and
Okay.
Sega Hardlight's doing all the the mobile games, and in Sonic Forces, racing, mobile, you know Sonic the Sonic Forces mobile game that's still getting characters. They do have basically they have Rusty Rose, they have Thorn Rose, they have Dread Knuckles, Pirate Knuckles, they have Nine, and then they have like Boss Cage, Maze, Sonic. So they have some Sonic Prime representation in there as well. I don't know if they're going to be whole additional characters. I'd imagine they'd just be skins, but if they are doing this whole, they do talk about like journeying through time and space. So maybe we could potentially see some IDW characters. Maybe we'll see some movie characters. I mean, who doesn't want to have a playable Wade in his bowling mobile? Um, or Donut Lord in his cop cruiser. Some people might throw a fit about that, but
Hey, I'd
I'll
love
say
that.
this: yeah,
I'd love the shit out of it. I mean, I don't know. People make fun of these like human characters in Sonic. I like them. You know, as much as I understand the argument of not wanting to have human characters in Sonic, I like it.
but I'll say this: Sega Hardlight, give me a playable Sally and a Great Forest Robotropolis track map, and my life is yours.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Now you got me wanting a donut lord driving a donut.
That'd be pretty. But like I said, racing games are really hard because it's like eh, they're very simplistic, but they're also like hard to get right. Because if you do it simple and you get it right, it's like, hey, you made a nice kart racing game. But there's it's like, but it's not as good as like X version of Mario Kart out there or
Well,
whatever.
who
And
plays Mario Kart for the story? But yeah.
but again, that's also kind of one of the interesting things I was going to say is that, um, at least in the last one, they did have a little campaign, story campaign. No really animated cutscenes, but voice acted little side, and static image stuff. Um, so we may get a story mode, adventure mode. I hope we do. I think you know I've talked with our good friend Chevelle about this, but Jack X Combat Racing, I think to me is the best of these you know racing IP games where it had a really great design, a really great campaign story that taught you how to play the game and do all the fun stuff with the game, and then kind of you know it kept you involved in even though you're doing the same race again and again and again, but it was able to say, okay, we got some additional modes, and the story wasn't super. I won't say. I mean, it was a good story, but it wasn't like super complex. The twists are pretty predictable if you've played any kind of video game.
Right, right. Hmm. All I can say is I give it 3 yawns out of 5. I'm not too impressed with it. I don't know. Sega, make me something. Make me something that I can recommend to my friends, my dude. Make something that people who don't like Sonic, dude. Just make one of those. I understand. Maybe you're under contract. You got issues. You got problems. You got things going on. Sure.
Well, they did, like I said, they did copyright the name Sonic Blitz coming out, and there's been some ads of hiring new team members for some kind of action battle game. So maybe we will eventually get that much anticipated, much wanted Sonic the Fighters 2,
All right.
aka Sonic Blitz.
as they said in that one, what was it? The Thing? Keep watching the skies. I don't know. I don't know how better to. I don't know what else to say. So, Malzilla, anything you want to say before we go? Was there anything else you had? Was that it?
Just we talked a little bit, but again, always please follow us on social media, join the Discord. We have a bunch of cool things.
Do we?
Again, we've started doing some mini-sodes on the
Oh yeah.
website.
Yes,
We
Malzilla
did
started his mini-sodes. Watch that
yes.
new one.
It's about the Phantom Rider saga in issue 76. Radrey also posted his 40-minute interview with the extended version of his interview with Shota Nakama about the Sonic Symphony.
Yes, it did.
So there's there. That's there. That's really good. And
Yeah, if you want to, if you love Sonic shipping, we had an episode where we talked to Chevelle and me and Malzilla, where we talked about our favorite Sonic ships. If you like, contentious arguments. Well, we don't really argue. We had a very calm conversation. It's very calm.
We are adults, and we have calm conversations, civilized adult conversations about the love life of fictional characters.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So, what are we ending this episode on, Malzilla? Oh, actually, I already know what it is. I already know what it is.
Oh,
can you guess?
Okay. Either Snively laughing or, my guess, either Snively laughing or some form of Nagus line.
Oh, okay. Oh, by the way, I want to mention also, Nagus, man, you need to do something with that voice. You got asthma. You need an inhaler. Take care of that shit, man. Peace.
He was very quite raspy, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He's very raspy. I also love that he has a lobster claw for a hand. What is this? Army of Darkness? With a chainsaw arm?
So let me kind of give a little Archie story before we go.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
There's an Archie thing with this.
Okay, so in the show, he's just called Nagus.
Right.
We mentioned in the post boot his name was Walter Nagus, and he was a troll, and he was the brother of Wendy Witchcart, the Witchcart from the Tales games.
Yes.
And so in in the pre-boot, he was known as Ixis Nagus. He was a wizard. He was the amalgamation of 3 wizards of the Ixis Order, which was founded by Mammoth Mogul. Ken found that was an Ian thing. Ian tied Mammoth Mogul to Ixis Nagus. He found a way to do it. So the 3 sorcerers were a cybernetic rhinoceros bat and a lobster, and they each had a domain over elementals of earth, wind, and fire, or earth, wind, and water, but there's one element they couldn't get, fire. So they did this big race where they raced across the land, they raced across the sea, they swam through the sea, and then they flew into air to kind of gain the power of the elements before they crashed into the sun, where they all tried to backstab each other, and they ended up all 3 flying into the sun, and then in a meteor they crashed down into the Kingdom of Acorn, fused into Ixis Nagus. So that's why he kind of has the bat / lobster / rhino horn.
Crazy. I didn't know the lore went this deep. It's crazy how deep the Archie lore goes. I don't think the Fleetway or the other ones go this deep. Or maybe they do. I don't know. But I guess until next time.
Stomp you later.
Bye.
Antoine!